Hello, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com and welcome to part 2 of my pattern for the crocheted striped vest. In part 1, we made the panels themselves and I talk about how to make the measurements, how to figure out what size is appropriate for you, how to do the crochet pattern, and how to finish off the panels and prepare them to be sewn together to create the final garment. And I do have a link for all of that in the description box below the video. You just need to click on the 3 little dots behind the More button below this video, and that'll take you to the description box. I will have a link there both for the video and the written pattern. In part 2, we are going to assemble the garment, stitch it all together at the shoulders and the sides, crochet a trim around the front collar, and do the tassels. So let's get started. All right, so once you have your panels all blocked, if you're doing that, we're going to sew the shoulder seams together. And so what you want to do is you want to have right sides together. So these are your wrong sides here, and that's your wrong side there. So the wrong side is facing out and the right sides are facing together. And you're wanting your pattern to be, so this would have been the starting row of this panel. That's going to be to the outside where the arms would be, and this is the starting row of the panel. So you can see those are both the tan and the black, and the pattern is working this way so that you have, if you're following the same color scheme, you're finishing with your red and tan to the center, and this is where we're going to do the black to finish as a border around the inside. So these colors are facing each other. Again, right sides together. Now I've already sewed this shoulder seam together here, and I am going to show you how to sew this one together here. So of course, working on the inside, you're going to have a length of yarn, and just pick a neutral color. I think the tan would work best in this color palette. For your sewing thread, and I have this 5 times the length, and I'm hoping that's long enough. I didn't actually measure this side. So you're going to put your darning needle on, or your thread into your darning needle, and we're going to do I think it's called a back stitch. So you want to line up your corners so that they're perfectly lined up, and we're going to go right into the corner here. Now there are no stitches to work into. We're working into the ends of the rows, and also no matter what you do, the colors will not line up. Your back and front colors won't line up. There's just no way to do the pattern unless of course you just use 2 colors, then it would. So we're just going to start, I don't know, that's like 1/4 of an inch down or 3/8 of an inch down. We're going to be working sort of just a little bit below the edge here. I would say 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch there. So we're just going to start by going into that corner stitch, bringing the yarn through, and you want to leave a nice tail here because you're going to at the end tie a knot and darn that in. And then, because this is a shoulder seam, we're going to go through in the exact same spot to give it like a double stitch there. This is going to be awkward because of the long yarn. Pull that up so it's sitting sort of on top of the shoulder there. And then I'm going to come back down into the back. So I'm going to bring this through to the back one more time. And this is just actually to place the thread in the right position. I'm going to pull this, give me a little bit more here. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in from the back, and you're going to make your stitch lengths, again, about 1/4 of an inch or 1/3 of an inch long. And you're going to come down a little bit from the top of the seam there, go into the back of the fabric, and come out on the other side. And so that's about 1/4 of an inch. Bring that through, snug that up. You're going to go back down into where your stitch came out of, and go straight down into the back, again keeping that about 1/4 of an inch below the top of that seam, and snug that up. Now you're going to bring your needle in, and you want it to come in this is where your stitch was before. You want it to come in right in the front of that, about the same distance. So coming in from the back, then you can see the needle's coming up there, and back here again it's about 1/4 of an inch down. Pull that through, and then you're going back down where that stitch came out. You can see it's right there. Go back down and coming out the other side, and pull that through. This is, I do believe this is called a back stitch. Then you're coming in from the back. Again, this is where your stitch ended here. You come in front of that stitch about 1/4 of an inch in front, and 1/4 of an inch or 1/3, whatever that is. Let me get my ruler out and measure that. I'm gonna just measure that. What are we doing here? It's about 1/3 of an inch, yeah. Bring that through like that, and then go back down where that stitch was from before, and pull that through like that. So you're just going to work that all the way along. It'll be kind of hard to see the stitch, but see, there's your tan stitch there. So again, coming in from the back, in front of that stitch by about 1/4 of an inch, bring that through, and then back down where that last tan stitch. So you're just going to sew that all the way along the shoulder line, you know, staying kind of close to the top there. And again, so you're coming in and back, in and back, in and back. So it's kind of a loop that you're doing. And what that does is it creates a really nice secure shoulder stitch. And I'll show you here, I'll fold it out. And so it creates a really nice secure stitch. So go ahead and do that. And as I say, you know, the colors aren't going to match up. It was rather impossible to try to get that to work. And just do that, and then I'll show you how to fasten off at the end. So coming to the end here, just have a couple of more stitches to go. So 5 lengths was the perfect length for the yarn here to get across the shoulder seam. And so then as you come to the end, you're just going to bring the last stitch up and just kind of catch the very edge of that, like that seam there, and go back down, in, and then we'll just do one more coming up there. And then this is where I would do, oops, just create a little knot here. Whenever I'm making crocheted items that are to wear, I like to, you know, sew them together almost like you would sew a regular garment together. So I like to put knots in there, and then I would just, and then just go ahead and darn in that tail end. And then on the other side, you can just, the side that you started on, you just put your darning needle back on there. Just trim that. There you go. So this side here, you'll just put your needle back on, tie a knot, darn in your tail end like that. So you're going to do both shoulders like that. And now this will be kind of a bulky seam. And if you have the hand steamer, you can use the hand steamer to press that down. And just, again, being gentle, you don't want to get too close to the acrylic fabric with the hand steamer. If you don't have a hand steamer, you can just wet this down and then kind of hand block it. And especially from the other side. And so that's the good side. And see, that looks pretty good. So next, we are going to sew the side seams together. Now this is starting to get a little big to get into the screen. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put wrong sides together. So your right seam is going to be out, the right side will be facing out, and this is the wrong side of your fabric. And we're going to be doing a whip stitch to sew up the side seams, because here we have nice perfect crochet stitches to work into. Now I'm leaving a 10-inch opening for my armhole. I'm wanting it to be a bit of a raglan kind of look, but you can make it bigger or smaller if you like. And what I'm going to do, and this is totally up to you, is I'm actually going to leave a little slit at the bottom here. And so I'm going to start joining up here. You can join from the very bottom and join the side seam all the way up to the armhole there, or you can leave a slit like I'm leaving. Now, I may actually change this if I decide I don't like it, and then in that case I can always just sew it up. Yeah, so just measure then. If you're going to do the slit, I came up 20 stitches and I put a stitch marker in there, and that's where I'm going to start sewing. And I'll just bring the camera in closer so you can see that. So to get the length of yarn that you need, you're just going to measure the length of your seam twice, and then leave another, half of that for your tail ends. So I've already measured my yarn off for that. So this is going to be really simple. You can do this this whip stitch any way you like. You can either go in through both the front loop and back loop of each stitch, picking up both of them, or you can go in from just the top loop or back loop and the top loop back loop of the back panel. Pardon me. That's what I'm going to do, because I like the way that actually creates a little bit of a frame. So I'm going to bring this actually in from the back so that the tail end is in the back. And we'll just tuck that and leave a bit of a tail so you can tie a knot. And then all you're going to do is you're going to pick up that opposite loop and then come over to the next loop and pick up that stitch. And then you'll go over to the next stitch, picking up just that top loop. Now you might pick up both, but I'm just picking up the top loop and the top loop of that panel. And of course I just picked the tan because that's the color of one of the sides. So just pick a color that is one of the yarn colors there, and you're literally just going to stitch those, pick up that top loop and that top loop, and they're facing each other. And again, you're working with wrong sides together, working on the right side of the fabric and just doing this whip stitch. And you're just going to simply whip stitch all the way along the side until you get to your armhole, and you're just going to do a double stitch, do a knot, and darn in your tail end as you did with the shoulder seam. And then when you're done that, you can come back and do the same with your inside tail here. You're just going to go to the inside. You can do an extra loop, tie a knot, and darn in your tail end. And I'll just show you here. And it just makes a really nice, simple join there. So go ahead, stitch both sides. Then the last step, I do believe, oh no, tassels, no, it'll be doing the front border. Okay, so stitch that together and I'll see you for the front border. Welcome back. So here we go, the side seams are all sewn together, and see how nicely that works, that slip stitch or whip stitch. So next we're going to crochet the edge around the front and collar. So I would be doing this in black, but I'm going to demonstrate it in cream just so you can see the contrast. So we're going to start on this panel side here. And it's basically, you're just basically like, you know, crocheting the rows, and we're going to join on there. All right, so we're working onto the front right panel with your tassels at the bottom here, if you're doing tassels, but it's the bottom corner of the right panel. And we're going to join on the trim color, which again, I would be using black, but I'm just going to demonstrate with the cream, but whatever color you want for your trim. Create a slip knot, and you want to leave a nice long tail that will be long enough for your tassels there. You're going to put that on your hook, and then you're going to join into this very first single crochet here into the top of the single crochet, going under both loops. You'll join on, grab the yarn from behind, flip your tail over. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to do a single crochet. So you're joining on with a single crochet. Then you can chain. Let's see, that's right there. We'll just do a chain 1 there. That'll give us enough space, because that's sort of like your chain 2 turning, but it also has a single crochet there. Then you're going to go right over into that very first chain 1 space, and you're just going to start working your pattern. And you'll do a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. Let's see if we have enough room there. Yeah, that's enough room. That's good. Single crochet into the chain 1 spaces, chain 1, just exactly as you've done for the pattern. And you're going to work that all the way around the entire front and neck and other side. And I will show you what to do once you get up to the neck, because you're going to be working into the ends of the rows here. But carry on, and I'll see you up around the collar part. All right, so as you come to the top of this panel to the neck edge, we're coming up to the shoulder seam here, and I've been crocheting in black, so I've just switched back to the cream so you can see it better. We're going to have to come around this collar edge here onto the back panel, which doesn't have the chain 1 spaces to crochet into, so you kind of have to make a space to get into. So I've done my last obvious single crochet chain 1 in the chain 1 space, so there's another space here I can get my crochet hook into, and do a single crochet and a chain 1. And then as I come around this corner, basically I'm going to skip a row and do a single crochet in every other row. So we'll skip this one here, and we'll go into the top of this row, and you just want to find that, get your hook through there as best as you can, do a single crochet, chain 1, and then we'll skip the red row, go into the cream row with a single crochet, chain 1, skip the orange row, go into the black row with a single crochet, chain 1. And so you're just doing your best. Skip the tan row, go into the red row, finding your way into the top of that row with your hook as best as possible to do your single crochet and chain 1. And so you're just going to repeat that along the back neck collar, and then come down the left side, and you'll be back into your chain 1 spaces for your single crochets, and you'll go all the way down to the bottom, and I'll see you on the bottom left corner. All right, so here we are coming down the front left panel, and I just have one more stitch to do at the end here. So chain 1, one more chain 1 space to work into, so single crochet, chain 1. And this bottom edge is a little bit tricky because just the way the stitch pattern works out. So what we're going to do is, just like how we began on the right panel, we're going to do a single crochet into the top of that first double crochet under the 2 loops, do a single crochet, and then just a chain 1, because otherwise it'll be too bulky at the bottom. And you're going to turn your work. I've got a ton of fabric here, so I can't really turn the whole piece here. Anyway, so you're going to turn your work, and then you've got that chain 1 space right there that you're going to go into with your single crochet, chain 1, and then into the next chain 1 space with the single crochet, chain 1. I've got my black yarn here too that's winding into this. single crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and so you're going to just work the pattern back around again, going in the opposite direction. And once you get up to the neck collar, it's going to be just fine because you've already created the stitches in there. So that's creating a nice sort of double row of a pattern along there, and then we can attach some tassels on the end to make that match up with our other tassels. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you at the end of that. Now, just a quick note, if you had decided not to do tassels and you wanted to crochet a border around the bottom, of course you darn in all the tail ends as you did before, and you would then carry on, and instead of it being a row turning and coming back, you can carry on with a round, and you could carry on with the same stitch pattern in a round, doing the same thing that you did in the neck edge, working into the end of every other row with your single crochet and a chain 1 in between. So you can definitely do that if you like, but I'm just working back with my second row of this stitch pattern, and I'll see you at the end. Welcome back. So now we're coming down the final side, the right side bottom, and of course now we're working on the inside. Now I'm not going to change back to the cream color to finish this off. I will talk you through it, and I know you won't be able to see it very well, I get that, but it's really basic. So here I've done a single crochet chain 1. There's one more chain 1 space here to work into, and we're going to do a single crochet into that, and then a chain 1, and we're actually just going to finish off by doing a slip stitch into the top of this very first single crochet. So going under both loops of that first single crochet, you're going under both loops, going to grab your yarn from behind, pull that through the single crochet and through the loop on your hook. Then we're going to do a chain 1 to fasten off, and I've already cut my tail, so you want to leave a tail that's kind of long enough to be a tassel, and fasten that off. And then next we are going to work in the tassels. But before we go on to the tassels, I just wanted to give you a quick peek at how nice this looks. And it's just 2 rows of the stitch pattern around the collar, and it just really sets it off so nicely. And of course I can't get the whole thing in the screen, but anyways, you can see how nice it looks with just a simple 2-row border. So let's get started on the tassels. Now to create tassels, what you want to do is make a jig so that you can make lots of tassels, and you want to decide how you want to do your tassels. You may want to just do them all in one color, like maybe, you know, add them all in black or cream or something like that. You also want to decide how many extra tassels per set of tail ends you want to have. So for every set of tail ends, you've got 2 strands. Do you want to add an extra set of just 1 strand, 2 strands, 3 strands? Here I've done 2 strands, and I think that that's nice, 2 additional strands. So it's a total of 6 strands altogether. And the way I'm going to do my colors is I'm going to do 1 strand of black and 1 mixed color. So to create your strands, then you take your jig, and I want my strands to be 6 inches finished. So make your jig 6 inches and add another inch for the wrap. So this is 7 inches altogether. And then you're just going to put your yarn, use the jig to make your tassels, hold it at the bottom there, and you want to wrap the yarn quite loosely. You don't want to pull it because otherwise it'll spring back and they'll be a little bit shorter than you really wanted them to be. And so I would make, you know, quite a few wraps. I'm just going to show you just a few wraps here. Snip it at the bottom, snip across the bottom, and there you go. You've got some nice tassels there to work with. So then I'm going to be, as I say, using black and another color. So take a black one here, and let's say a cream color. So pull those 2 together, and again, you may be using 3 extra strands or just 1 strand, it's up to you, but either way you put them on the same way. So you're going to fold it in half, and you want the garment facing up towards you. This is a good side up. And then working at the end of the rows where you've tied off the 2 knots, the tail ends, you're going to take the crochet hook and go in from the back underneath where that knot is, and there'll be a little space to go into there. Put your hook in there, even out your strands here, put them on the hook, pull them through, and pull it through quite a ways so you've got some nice finger space to work with there. And then you want to straighten out your tail ends as best as you can. Then take the tail ends that you've tied, pull them forward, and then take the whole bundle and bring that through the loop like that. And then you're just going to pull the strands that are not knotted, that you've looped on, and snug them up like that. And that way you're enclosing the knot and the new strands all together, just like that. So here, I'll quickly do another one here. So I've got this strand, so I'm going to pick a black, and I think I'll pick a red to go in there. You could figure out the actual color scheme if you want, but I'm just winging it. So again, fold those 2 strands in half. Again, you may have 1 or 3 strands here. Going in from the back of that knot, there's a little space in there that you can get your hook into. Put the loops on the hook, pull them through nice long ways. Straighten them out at the end. Bring your tails, the tied off tails over, and then all of them through the loop. And then you will snug up just the 2. Well, and you'll find you won't be able to snug up the other 2 because they're firmly attached. And there you go. So it's just that easy. So you can go ahead and do that. And what'll happen is you'll come to, say here I have 1 lonely strand. So you can decide here if you're going to add 3 strands to make this 7 altogether, or 2 strands to make it 5. Or another alternative is you can just darn in this tail end and then put in 3 strands to make it an even 6. You can do it like that too. And then on this side, what you'll have is a space where you have a spare tail. Again, you can darn that in or include it. And I would put a set of 3 strands here and another set of 3 strands here. So you kind of have to add some strands where you don't actually have tail ends to make it all nice and even like that. So yeah, so go ahead and do all your strands, and then we're going to come back and trim them all up. All right, so we're nearly done. So once you have all your tassels done, then you can trim them, and you can do them a couple of different ways. You can either just sort of eyeball it and just sort of cut the obvious long strands off, or you can use your jig and you can make a very sharp edge finish, so they're very even. I'm going to do something in between, in that I'm going to use this as a guide and just kind of snip off the obvious long ones. So it's not a perfect, you know, straight, even edge, but this guide allows me to give a pretty even edge, but not like super perfect. And so, yeah, you're just going to do this all the way around the whole sweater. Put all your tassels on and then give them a little trim at the end. And then you will be done. And so will I. So I will come back for the final reveal. Welcome back. Here we go, all done. And I just absolutely love how this has turned out, and it's so cozy, so warm, and I really love the color combination. I just think it looks so fabulous. So yeah, you know, there are a lot of steps in doing this project, but Super easy, suited for beginners, and you can make yourself such a beautiful garment handmade by you. So thank you for joining me. I hope you like this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. We'll see you next time.